I found this the other day, actually. It was my my first dropshipping store that I created, and I included that as a gift for all my orders. It was liked so much that customers actually requested to purchase this on its own. So yeah, so first of all, how's it going?
It's going well. It's going well. You'll laugh. I've literally spent all morning talking to suppliers because part of being a business owner, you got to do your due diligence and always look at prices. And I've spent so long the last few days speaking to different suppliers, just trying to see if I can get a competitive price. Because I think I talked to you about how I want to get the margin kind of a little bit bigger, so it kind of it's more resilient during the downturns as much as the up. Still using you guys for fulfillment, and even I went through every supplier I could find, and even finding the best of the best prices. By the time you calculate in domestic shipping costs, and then obviously you would organize like a third-party inspection company, it ends up being pretty much the same as you guys. So successfully just spent a couple of days just
well, at least you tried, eh?
Yeah. I think it's important to explore these things. So
yeah, I mean, it's a good learning curve. And I mean, that's not always the case. Sometimes you are able to find cheaper than, a fulfillment company or somebody like us.
Yeah.
And but it's quite difficult because the majority of the time, those sourcing from China usually go to the same sources. If you're Alibaba, made in China, or those platforms that are made specifically for international buyers. And the problem with that is the majority of the vendors or whatever you want to call them on those platforms aren't manufacturers or factories. They are literally trading companies, middlemen. So as you say, by the time however many suppliers you contact, chances are by the time they put their margins on top, it will probably be similar, or if not more expensive than what we would charge you. And then, but of course, this is the first time you're potentially going to be dealing with them. You're not sure how good they are and what their communication's like, and if you're going to have any issues and quality control and all of that kind of stuff. So you obviously got to factor that in as well. But yeah, it was good that you managed to get that experience. Well, out of interest, was it mainly Alibaba and
Yeah, just all Alibaba. I tried to explore a little bit off Alibaba, but just the nature of being China, if you go into other platforms, a lot of it's in Mandarin or just not English speaking. And like the first thing, so what I do is when I'm vetting new suppliers, I basically create a number of categories that are important and I score them. And like the first category I score them on is communication, because I don't care how good the price is. If you have to like back and forth 5 times to get them to answer the most basic question, that's just creating headaches. And then there's a chance of error because it's like miscommunication. And so I want someone that's just really well spoken, that when I ask a question, they know what I'm saying, or they just answer the question. So usually I just go straight to Alibaba and, I just reach out to all of them. You reach out to like 30 of them or however many I can find. I literally find everyone who has the product listed. From the 30, about 10 of them are just, you can tell it's just going to be painful to deal with. Sure. Then you've kind of got like a middle 10, which you can tell it's not one of their main products, or maybe they're a smaller company. So there's kind of some nuances with working with them. Maybe they can't get the best price, whatever. And then usually there's about 10 or so that are like, they've been doing it a while. They understand the economics of that product, or they specialize in that category. And then from there, I kind of usually get down to about 5 or so that are like, I'd be willing to try. And that's what I've done in the past with previous products. And I did it with this product. But even the best of the best, I literally just crunched the numbers. I'm like, because the other thing is I'm looking to scale, right? And so before I scale, I'm looking to improve my margins. But there are all sorts of benefits from using your platform that help you to scale, in the sense that like when you deposit large amounts of money, you get the bonus incentive, a little bit of a percentage on top. So once you add that onto it, and then obviously you can make margin on, if you're shipping more products, the sourcing cost and the fulfillment cost, they come down incrementally as well. So you kind of, you save some margin points across all these categories. It ends up just being like, you know, a good little saving in itself. That's better than kind of what I'm finding going directly to a supplier and just trying to go direct to them. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for breaking that. And that's a great strategy. And we kind of employ similar, because, as you say, communication is pretty much one of the most important factors, especially when you're first starting a business relationship. And our procurement team is exactly the same. When we, you know, it doesn't matter if you're putting a bulk sourcing inquiry or if it's just for, you know, drop shipping for a new product, the procurement team will contact a number of different suppliers, obviously not on Alibaba, but they contact them, see how quickly they respond. But fortunately for us, there's lots of different prerequisites. And with one of the platforms we use, they actually have a breakdown of, it's based out of 5 stars. So those 5 stars, it would show, well, first it will show how long this particular supplier or manufacturer has been in business for. It obviously shows the company name, the address where they're located, but it breaks down 5 categories. One is out of 5, product quality, after sales service, logistics, speed, and there's another 2. So we automatically disqualify any that has a total of 4 stars or below. So we're only looking for, I mean, depending, you know, 9 times out of 10, that's how we operate, simply because there are so many suppliers out there that sell similar products or the same products, that we have the luxury to be able to eliminate all of the suppliers that don't meet our requirements. And that's the benefit we have. Unfortunately, Alibaba, and for international the clients who are sourcing via that platform, there's not that much, so much intricate details compared to the platform we use. And unfortunately, you have to use the time, your own time, to go and manually kind of shortlist these suppliers, which you've done a great job of. But yeah, I mean, I'm quite surprised actually that you weren't able to find at least one that was cheaper. Maybe you did, but I think with your kind of product, I don't think there's going to be like a huge price saving. If there was, then you probably would need to ask yourself some questions and worry a bit in terms of how is that going to sacrifice on what level? Is that the product quality or service quality? So, but anyway.
On that quickly, I will say there were a couple that were low enough in price that it would have had a significant reduction in the overall cost of the order. But what I find is it's like a bell curve, right? Is like you've always got a couple that are really expensive and a couple that are really cheap, and everyone kind of falls within this curve. And in the past, I've tested the ones that are really, really cheap. And the reason why they're really, really cheap is because they're cutting costs somewhere. And, you know, it might be that the packaging is a little bit cheaper, or maybe they use a slight variation of the product, or, you know, it may not be the product itself, which is the way, it might be the packaging, or their branding might not be as good, but they usually cut costs somewhere. And so I think there was 1, maybe 2 that was kind of, the price was low enough compared to what I'm currently getting that I thought that could be viable. But in all of my scoring categories, they just scored terribly in like a lot of them. The only one they scored well in was price. And so it's like, so it's kind of like their communication was terrible. Even if I just even look at like their overall store on Alibaba just to see how polished it is, because it looks like they put some love into it, or if they've just thrown it up in like 2 days. You get a feel for if they're an established brand. I look to see if they've got a website, and it's like usually those ones have just no presence anywhere online. Their store looks like a drop shipping store, so they're just selling everything. There's no kind of consistency, and their communication's terrible. And even just simple things like, you know, their names, like there's no full names when you talk to the person. You don't really know who you're talking to. And, you know, I look at it, I'm like, do I really want to throw tens of thousands of dollars to this random person? I don't know their name. I don't fully know the company. It looks a bit scammy. Yeah, I could save couple dollars a unit, but it's like, I don't want to do that. And I've been burned in the past. So I've kind of learned that you want to find as competitive as possible, but you never really want to go the cheapest. It's very rarely you want to go the cheapest.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I guess we can only generalize here, but that is the general rule of thumb. You know, if there is a significant price saving somewhere, there has to be something that's got to give, right? So it's and the thing is, especially with kind of new companies on the platform or those who are relatively new, it's always a price war, because you know Alibaba has their algorithm as well, so it goes by the amount of sales that they processed and you know minimal complaints and stuff, so they will be kind of pushed up the search list. But that is pretty much, and I guess it's similar with almost every platform, whether it's you know eBay, Amazon, Fiverr, whatever it is, until you become established, the algorithm is not going to show you at the top on the first page even. And the same applies to Alibaba. And the majority of the time, you have to just drop your prices as low as possible to be able to get some kind of results or brand recognition. And I mean, it's not. We can't say for sure that if you did purchase with them, there would be something that was lacking. But it's, as you say, it's your kind of first impressions and your initial tests didn't give you that confidence to be able to place an order with them. But in saying that, you can always do some tests. You can order some samples, whether that's to us or to you directly, or you know a handful of goods, and test their service and product to see how it is if you're ever in doubt.
Well, the way I look at it is it's kind of like, as a business owner, you're just trying to manage risk, right? It's like, what's the risk reward? It's like, let's say you do go with a supply that is cheaper. Well, you're risking like, you know, $50,000, $100,000, you know, that you're going to outlay to try and make 1% on the margin. It's kind of like, that doesn't seem like a very good bet, when you could just not worry about that 1%, and you could probably spend that 50, 100 grand testing new creatives, or like, you know, maybe ordering extra stock and sending it to the domestic markets to save a little bit on shipping, and you're going to save a lot more than 1%. So it's kind of like, that seems like probably the last place you want to go to if you're going to throw that much cash at saving 1% on your margin. Exactly.
So you mentioned you've been burned before. So I mean, for anyone that's going to be watching this, probably give them some kind of warning signs or what to look out for in respect to that experience you had.
One thing I've learned is the Chinese, they're not fundamentally bad people. I know a lot of people have this whole thing where they're like, the Chinese are going to rip me. But what they are is they're very direct communicators, and they're people pleasers, in the sense that, like, you come to them, you're like, I want this thing. They'll just answer with, okay, we have this thing for you, even if it's not the thing. So you'll want this product, and they'll just say, okay, we've got the product. And you'll say, can you have it to me by next week? And they'll say, yes, I can. And they just, you know, especially when you're a new client. So, you know, my first order with two different products, but I had one issue with an order where they seemed like they were so willing to help, and they had the cheapest price, and they were like, yep, we'll get it to you quicker than anyone else. It's the lowest price, all of this stuff. So I was like, wow, this is too good to be true. And this is right when I was getting into the game. I had no idea about business. So I just transferred all the money across, and then, like, they had issues with, you know, they're like, oh, the money didn't come. Okay, no, we had to send the money back to you. You need to send us more money. And then, like, I had to transfer back and forth, all these additional payments, and I was getting hit with fees. And then they sent the products over, and then like 10% of them I just had to throw out because they were just like dodgy. And then I asked them to replace it, and they were just like, you know, again, because they're just very direct. They're like, oh, really sorry, must have been something happening in transport. We'll make sure it doesn't happen again. And I'm just like, well, can you send my money back? And they're like, no. And, you know, they just kept saying, like, the whole time, it was a weird thing because it wasn't confrontational the whole time. But I was just like, oh, you've screwed me, and you've sent me dodgy products, you've overpromised, under-delivered on shipping times, product quality, everything. But you've been lovely the whole time while you're doing it. And so I think that's just something to be careful of, is really push them and don't take someone's words, like question things. So like, you know, after that, I actually started getting in the habit of, when someone gave me a really low price, I would say to them, hey, this price is a lot lower than everyone else. I want to make sure that you can make margin on this. Otherwise, I don't want to work with you, because I know another thing that's happened to me is I worked with a supplier and I got this crazy competitive price. I ordered a couple orders with them, and then all of a sudden they're like, sorry, sir, due to whatever, global economics, the price has gone up. But once I started pushing them, it turns out in the end that they were doing kind of what you spoke about. They were lowering the price so much to get some orders through. And in my head, I'm thinking economies of scale. As I order more with them, the price will go down. But as I was ordering more, the price was going up because they were starting to gain the algorithm and they're getting traction. Then they're like, hey, and then they were putting on something else because they didn't want to call it for what it is, So, and this is why communication is so important. It's not just someone that speaks really clearly, but understanding someone that's kind of like, okay, we all need to make money out of this, and let's make sure we've got all the right processes in place. So risk of losing capital for both parties is really low, and upside potential of making money is really, really high for both parties. To supply myself, and that's kind of like what you want from a relationship. Otherwise, if you're just squeezing them on something, eventually something will break.
Sure.
And
it's. Sorry, go ahead.
I like reading books about kind of not autobiographies, like I don't know what you call them, but like books on companies like Walmart and Nike, and how these companies have come to be the giants that they are. And a lot of them all had very similar issues early on, where like they were working with a supplier, and at some point that supplier, the relationship kind of got a bit rocky because they were squeezing for like lower and lower prices and better quality, and then the supplier was kind of either losing money or something was happening, and then eventually the relationship broke. So yeah, I'd like to have my relationships not break.
Sure. Yeah, it's a mutual thing, isn't it? But that's the most common strategy that I think it is. I mean, don't want to isolate it only to Chinese suppliers, but I see it so often where they do rely on it to get the punters through the door, so to speak, with really low pricing. And then, as you say, once they have you as a customer and you are getting consistent and large volume, that's when they can start kind of clawing back either their losses if they've priced it too low, or they find other areas where they can kind of claw it back, which is understandable because they need to make money as well. But this is the biggest issue is communication. If we ever employed such a strategy, which we never would, we would be upfront with it. Say, look, okay, for the first week or 2 weeks or a month, we're going to charge you this much, but thereafter, sorry, we can't operate on these margins. We're going to have to charge you 5% extra or 10% extra. You would never get that from a Chinese company. Because the culture is completely different. Instead, they will try and keep you as a customer, keep you happy, but make an excuse or come up with something that may sound either completely absurd or may get you thinking, oh, maybe it's true. Maybe, okay, that's fine. I'll accept it. But once it keeps happening, once it's not just once, happens again and again, that's when you as a customer start losing trust. And you just, once that trust is gone, you have no option but to, find alternative solutions. So it's more about, I guess, education on, or them understanding the kind of Western mindset and culture, because, if from them doing business in China, there's nothing wrong with it really. But you're not Chinese. you don't understand that kind of that culture. So, but yeah, it's quite a common problem, and you're not the first person who's kind of explained this to me.
Just quickly, you mentioned the cultural part. So I was lucky enough. So I started selling on Amazon when it first launched in Australia. It was like brand new. It just launched a couple of years ago, and I got invited to this like Amazon lunch thing where you got to like meet all these team members, because it was kind of like I was one of the first on the platform, and I was lucky enough to meet some kind of like pretty high up people within Amazon Australia. And I kind of, there's one girl who I was talking to who was managing a bunch of accounts, and no one was really making money on Amazon because it was such low volume. And I was like, is anyone making actual decent volume? And she said, yeah, the Chinese sellers, because they just sell everything. she's like, they'll just have like 1,000 SKUs and we'll just sell everything. And I think that is very much a cultural thing. Like if I just sell 1,000 SKUs, I know I'm going to probably fuck up somewhere and like there's going to be some poor quality, because how can you do quality control for 1,000 and then trying to maintain? So but they don't care about that. They're just like, they move fast. And so that's their strength, is like huge volume, move fast, let things break. We don't worry about the things that break, as long as the things that work kind of counteract anything that breaks, plus makes a little bit of profit on top, and they'll work at finer margins, and they move fast. That's just a cultural thing.
Yeah, you explained it perfectly. It's just all about money, success, and cross that bridge when it comes to it, when shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
So yeah, how's I think when we last spoke, you mentioned you was kind of at a crossroads with this particular brand. Have you? I mean, I don't know if it's the season affects your sales for this particular product, or is there any difference from when we last spoke?
So I've definitely changed my mindset on it, and I think it's just a case of being too short-term focused over too long-term focused. You know, because if you're too short-term focused, the ultimate version of too short-term focused is like one day, right? You have one bad day, and all of a sudden you're like, "That's it, my business is done. It's going down the gurgler," right? But you know, over the scheme, that might be your only bad day over like a month, right? And so it's kind of like, are you hitting the right KPIs that may not always be profit and margin KPIs that are looking healthy for future sales, right? And kind of bulletproofing things. So that's why at the moment I haven't been scaling too hard. I've got just stock that's on its way, but I'm actually working on stuff on the back end. That's why one of my things on the checklist was, I've got this long checklist. Basically, I wrote down everything that I think can help me with margin, and I'm just going through them one at a time, and I'm just ticking them off. And I just want to give myself really big, juicy margins. And then I've kind of reframed it in my mind, where with my current product, because I need to launch new products. It's just part of the game, because you need lifetime value. And my kind of product, people aren't going to buy it twice. They want other stuff. So now I'm kind of reframing it to, okay, that product, I wasn't selling a product. I was selling a form of customer acquisition. And I was lucky enough that it was, really profitable. I was able to acquire customers profitably. I'm going to keep using it as a way to acquire customers, but I need to really improve my back end. So now I'm kind of like, over the next couple of months, I'm looking to launch quite a lot of new products and just basically optimize. I don't want to sell 1,000 products like the Chinese, but basically I'll just keep rapidly testing and seeing what my current customers are going to buy, and then any other ones we cut them, and then maybe some, if they're only buying it once or twice, I'll still cut those, and I'll just kind of, I want to have a portfolio of probably like 20 to 30 products that I know that my customers, once they come in, they're definitely going to buy at least a couple of them over their lifespan. And then I basically, going into Q4, will keep obviously scaling this product, but then from those 20, 30 products, I'll probably look to scale a couple of those as a customer acquisition channel and see if perhaps some of those are more lucrative for acquiring the customer. So it's going to be a two-part thing. It's going to be like, okay, here's the business. I know that this kind of customer buys all of these products. They might only buy 2 or 3, but they generally buy all these. Now, out of all of these products, which one of them can I send out into the abyss of Facebook, Google, wherever, that will pull in the most customers profitably, that then will buy all the other stuff. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment. Instead of just like, oh my God, my profit margin isn't as good as what it used to be. I'm trying to really like think about it like, okay, 2 steps. One product is an acquisition product, and then the rest of the product will be a lifetime value product or products.
Cool. Sounds good. And yeah, there's no reason why that won't work once you found a good fit. If your customers are happy with the initial product, obviously.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm pretty sure you've had this brand for a while and selling this particular product, and from what I understand, you've got relatively good feedback.
People have been loving it. The only thing I need to really improve on to improve that side is the shipping times, which I'm going to work with your team to improve that. I want to start sending more products to the domestic markets that I'm mainly selling in, because that's probably the only bottleneck. Is like, they don't necessarily complain about it, but people are pretty happy with the product once it arrives. They probably just like it to get it a bit quicker, especially because the kind of product that people buy as gifts sometimes. So, like we said, Mother's Day. So it's kind of like, if they're buying it as a gift, it'd be nice if it arrived before that event or whatever it is.
Definitely. And was it the US, which is your best performing market, or?
It's kind of split. It kind of swings a little bit, but it's usually kind of like 50% is like Australia, and then the other 50% is kind of made up of like the US and Canada.
Cool.
And of that, mainly that's the US.
Yeah.
And the US is where I really want to try and grow, though, even though, like, you know, Australia's making up half. It's just the size of that market is so big that if I can get traction there, then there's just much more room to scale.
Sure. Yeah, this is, and you know, when you mentioned about having domestic stock and quicker shipping, yeah, it's definitely something. I mean, for a brand like yours, and for this product that has been selling consistently for a kind of long period of time, it's not as large of a risk to, you know, invest in a few hundred pieces of inventory and sending it to our US 3PL or your own US 3PL, especially come, you know, Chinese New Year or holiday periods where we can't ship out from China. So you'll be killing two birds with one stone. You'll be testing because you haven't used any domestic 3PLs as of until now, right?
No.
It's all been from China. So that'll be, you know, you'll be able to test how it all works. You'll be able to see what your margins are like with the domestic shipping, whether your margins are increased based on your product. They probably will, especially now with freight rates pretty low. And if you're obviously going to need to send via sea freight, and also you're going to see if it increases your conversion rates. You know, when your customers get to the checkout and say, yeah, you know, 2 to 4 days shipping.
Yeah, that's what I'm more excited about, because like I've got on my website how long it takes to ship the product. You know, just because I'm trying to play this game as squeaky clean as possible. Because, you know, like I want to make sure that I'm doing the right stuff for my payment processes. I don't want to go through that nightmare stuff that people go through. So like all my information's up there, but I'm not slapping the shipping times right in the middle of the product page in big letters. But I know that it could be a really good selling point, especially in the US, because everyone's used to Prime. That, you know, if I put that underneath the shipping cart saying, you know, arrives in this amount of days, you know, or ships same day or whatever it is, that could probably see a pretty big boost in conversion rate, you know, especially for US customers.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. The only thing is whether, as everyone would know, it's the investment in the stock and the time. So on average, you know, from China, from the moment you place the order until it's actually delivered to the States at a 3PL warehouse, you're looking on average about 30 days, obviously depending on which service you use and how quick the custom clearance is. So you have to pretty much invest 30 days in time and however much inventory you're going to purchase. You know, if you wanted to streamline it and make sure that there's no black spots in sales, then you're going to literally have to order 30 to 40 days worth of inventory to see you through until that inventory arrives in the States. But, you know, we can obviously discuss that as and when you're ready to do it. But cool, yeah, it was great. Great catching up with you, and obviously I don't want to keep you too long. But do you have any questions for me while we're on the call?
You know what? Last time we jumped on a call, you were like really helpful. We just chatted generally about kind of like, you know, market sentiment and just trends throughout the year. And I think it was just good to kind of get a feel for, because you're a business owner as well, right? So it's like you're running your own business. It's like just two business owners talking about things. You just start to, you know, it's good to have another perspective on what you're doing, you know, because like when you're so in the trenches, you forget that there's like opportunities out there, or that maybe everyone else maybe isn't doing as well as what you think. And, you know, it's just a big game of chess. You're just trying to like figure out how you should play the pieces. So yeah, you've been really helpful. You know, I'm currently talking to your team because I'm looking to do custom packaging now and customize everything. And that's another thing I want to work on to just improve the whole experience. And I'm probably going to, you know, be chatting to those guys a little more in the back end. They're probably going to get sick of me because I'm going to be messaging them every day. But I've got a lot of questions from just like that, you know, I kind of know how it's going to play out, but just things like what's the best way to bundle things, you know, even if I maybe get custom packaging done that's done separately from separate manufacturing facility, that then I can actually put all of the bundles into the one package together. Just little things like, these are the things that no one really wants to do. Everyone just wants to sell a product and make some money. But like, I think the reason, like, I haven't done it, I haven't wanted to do it, but I think that's the reason why business kind of halted a little bit, is I've kind of been lazy on the things that help you scale consistently by getting like lifetime value, which is like looking after your customers. And like, I look after my customers, I have 7-day-a-week customer support, communicating with them really clearly. I try to ship the products as quickly as possible. Everything's up there. But there's the next level, which is like anticipating what things will just make their life a little bit better even before they ask for it. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, is like, I'm just looking at like little 1%ers of improve the packaging, improve the bundles, what additional products I can get. And even with some of the other products I've currently been selling, are there any other options that are similar that might be better quality or lower price? Because one thing I'm going to look to test is, in each kind of subcategory of product, I'll probably test 2 products, a higher price point one and a lower price point one, and just seeing if people are more like price sensitive or they want something that's really high quality. So yeah, I don't really have any questions for you. I've got some kind of questions to your team that I'll just kind of be asking them over the next few weeks, but it's nothing that really it's going to probably help anyone that's watching this video. It's just going to be like, what size box should we get to fit this product in that product, or should we even bother doing that? Or things like, like logos. Should we print multicolor logos or one color logos? Is that going to save us any money? Just little nuances that,
I'm sure they won't get fed up. Don't worry. They're asked these questions pretty much every day by lots of different clients. But yeah, I mean,
I was gonna say, I feel like I'm one of these clients that like, I'm usually pretty quiet most of the time, and then all of a sudden when I've got a question, I like break the seal, and all of a sudden I ask like 30 questions in 2 days.
It's fine, honestly. No, definitely. If and even if for any reason they can't answer any questions for any reason, highly unlikely, you obviously can always at me in your channel. Yeah. But one thing I'd like to add while we're on the subject is it can actually be quite surprising. There's obviously lots of case studies out there. When you do something as small and as simple as including a free gift or a thank you card, or branding your customer experience the way they receive the parcel, it has a massive impact on lifetime customer value. And the thing is with these things, if you like in your case, you've not really done anything like that. Of course, as you say, you offer a great customer service, but the customer pretty much just receives their product. They're happy with the product, but it's kind of, I guess you could say you don't go above and beyond in that respect. So when it comes to, it doesn't matter what you do in any type of business, in any category, everything ideally should be monitored, with metrics and data, because if you do change any part of the business, you don't know if that's positively impacted it or negatively impacted it. So using this as an example, if you did all of a sudden start including a gift or thank you card or branded packaging or whatever you want to include, I can't see that being a negative impact. Almost certainly positive, but how positive? Okay, over time you may see return customer orders increase, the percentage increase, but unless you have very consistent and very high volume sales, it's difficult to be able to see an accurate number or be able to say for sure, okay, yeah, this has improved my business by this much in this category. So, but regardless of that, if you don't have those systems in place to monitor such metrics, then I would always recommend you just do the bare minimum, especially if you're half established and you have been doing it for at least a few months, maybe 6 months. It really is worth investing in, and I wouldn't even say investing because it's so cheap to create branded mailers, thank you cards with coupons and discounts for next purchases. And even if you just actually, I've got a perfect example here. So I found this the other day. Actually, it was my my first dropshipping store that I created, and it's a car air freshener. So you hang it.
Yeah.
And I included that as a gift for all my orders. And it was so well, it was liked so much that customers actually requested to purchase this on its own. And actually created a product on my Shopify store, and there was loads of orders for this, not only because it was kind of a nice sentiment, but it actually smelt really nice and fresh to the point where
you're giving me an idea now.
But I mean, things like these, it's not only, doesn't only have that kind of that nice comforting feeling when a customer opens the box and receives an additional item they wasn't expecting, but on the plus side is that they're going to no doubt hang this up in their car. You know, most people drive, or worst case is they're just going to give it to somebody else who does have a car, and that is going to be in their car for at least I don't know, a month, depending on how good the quality is and the scent is. So every person that gets in their car, including the driver, well, driver aside, he'll probably already know what this is about, but everyone else aside from the driver is probably going to ask, oh, what's that name or company or whatever? Or if you have a really nice scent, they're going to say, oh, that smells really nice. What is it? And then it forces the driver to say, oh, it was so-and-so from this store. And it's obviously slapped on there. And you can add whatever you want on there as well. So something like that will probably cost you an extra, I don't know, 5 cents, maybe less, depending on the quality and the scent and everything. So it's kind of like a no-brainer. And that's just one example. You know, car air freshener. You can have whatever you want, you know, fridge magnets, actually no magnets. Whatever you do, don't have any magnets in your bundles because of shipping issues. But anything that is placed, you know, around the house or is seen on a daily basis, in front of as many people as possible, why not? You know, why would you not do it for that small extra expense?
These are the kind of creative little things that, you know, I've heard stories about other brands doing things. I can't think of any at the top of my head, but that they do to just like get some free customers or free traction, or, you know, just a little bit of kind of recognition or make some noise in a certain area. It's I think it's why creativity is really important, you know, because if you just sell products through Facebook, then you're going to limit yourself.
Definitely. 100%. This was actually when I picked it up. Actually, I can actually still smell this, and this is a product from about 5 years ago, maybe even 6. So I'm not even sure if I actually even have the contact of this supplier, or even if they're still in business. But yeah, that was a really good investment. And it just proves to this day it still smells pretty good. But anyway, enough of car air fresheners and stuff. But yeah, it was lovely speaking to you again, Alex. Whenever you want, just fire away to the team any questions that you have. They'll be happy to help you. And if you did want another call at any point, if you had any questions, feel free to schedule one.
Yeah, 100%. If you want to jump on another call, I'm happy to do another one of these, or even if you've got any questions now, anytime you want, just reach out and I'll schedule something in.
Will do. Cool. Thanks a lot, Alex, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Awesome. Enjoy the air fresheners.
That's my last one, actually.
It's the smell of dropshipping.
Yeah.
So,
Lovely scent. All right. Take care.